Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today, we are finishing the book of Enoch.
The first one.
Yeah.
We'll get into the second and third one someday.
Yeah, someday. But it would just be better if we don't continue with Enoch with, the other Enochian books.
We
after
would
this.
be like Enoch experts. We would know everything there is to know about Enoch.
We could damn well try. But after we're done with Enoch, we are going into the books of Maccabees.
Yes, the first and second.
Yeah, and we have those already along with commentary.
Like 15 pages of commentary per page of Maccabees.
I mean, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is.
What are we going to do, by the way, with that? Are we just going to hand one book back and forth, or is there commentary?
There is commentary in here on Maccabees, so we will definitely be using Erdman still, and we will also be using the I think it's the Anchor Bible. That's the one that we have, their commentary series. So we will be using that one as well. But before the show, I'm gonna take a bunch of notes. So if one of us is reading something, the other will know when we should check the commentary.
All right, and I mean, it's a pretty thorough Maccabees commentary.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm sure we don't really need that many more books.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one more would be nice.
Yeah.
But we have those on the wish list.
Yep, those are on the wish list.
Yeah.
So if you want to support the show this week for next week, then you could help us out by buying us a Maccabees commentary. Yeah.
Either way. So today we're finishing the book of Enoch, and we have quite a ways to go, but we didn't want to wait any longer.
Yeah.
So I think you might have some commentary.
Yeah, I have some introductory parts to go over.
Okay.
So here they're talking about the themes that we've been going over in the chapters that we've been reading. So it says, descriptions of the judgment or events leading up to it constitute the third major form in these chapters. The adverbial introductions then or in those days recall parallel passages in the prophetic books. The author's use of prophetic forms suggests that he is presenting his message as revelation, an impression strengthened by his use of formulas that elsewhere introduce revelations and especially forecasts, know, be it known, I say to you. Stronger yet is the formula, I swear to you. References to happenings in the heavenly realm also presume Enoch's claim to revelation. The main section of the epistle reaches its climax in chapter 102, verse 4, through chapter 104, verse 8, which takes the form of a dispute about the existence or non-existence of retribution. That is, the judgment that has been the epistle's main subject. In each of the four parts of this dispute, the author addresses a particular group, quotes certain words about or by them, and then refutes these words with an appeal to revelation. The epistle, that's like a logical fallacy, right? Appeal to revelation.
Oh, yeah. But, if people took that very seriously back then.
Yeah, they did. Some
it's
people do today.
Today also, yeah. I mean, especially if at some point in the future your ideas are, kind of seen to fruition.
Yes.
Even if they were super vague.
Which they usually are.
Yeah.
The epistle...
I'm just going to say something wrong later.
Okay. I expect that.
Herpa derpa.
I did it.
The epistle closes with explicit reference to the transmission of Enoch's teaching. In the end time, his books will be given to the righteous and will be a source of wisdom, faith, and joy. and they will serve as a testimony to the children of the earth. With this reference to the future generations, the paths of righteousness, and the peace that belongs to the righteous, the author returns to the themes of his superscription in chapter 92. The epistle dates from the 2nd century BCE and was added as a conclusion to the corpus before the Book of Parables and the Book of Luminaries were incorporated into the collection. Chapters 106 through 107 are about the birth of Noah. According to this narrative, Noah's miraculous birth foreshadowed his role as the preserver of the human race. Placed at the end of the corpus, the story promises salvation for the righteous, who will survive the great judgment that was prefigured in the flood. As a literary type, the story parallels accounts of special births in the Hebrew Bible, e.g., Isaac, Samson, and Samuel, as well as the stories of the conceptions of Jesus and John the Baptist in Matthew 1 and Luke 1. Its structure also parallels 1 Enoch 65 and 83. Then there is a final book of Enoch, which is chapter 108. This other book that Enoch wrote, is actually a summarizing and interpretive conclusion to the corpus, which exhorts the righteous who live in the end days to endure their expectations because the judgment will soon vindicate them and eradicate sin and the sinners who have troubled and oppressed them. The author draws on ideas, expressions, and traditions that will resonate with the reader of the earlier chapters and creates conclusion that interprets the corpus as a revelation of eschatological import that is intended to console and exhort. And that's the end of the introduction.
Well, thank you for reading that for us. That's very kind of you.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And what you said earlier about how the book should be passed down, from generation to generation, whatever, it should, stay very important.
A lot like the Kabbalah.
Yeah, and it, probably played a role in the reasoning of King Zada Yaakov.
Yes. I mean, if it was in there, in the copies that he was reading.
Sure, I'm sure they were. It was pretty late, yeah. So, we're going to have the good amount of commentary to add to all this. So hopefully you stick around. But how about we get started with chapter 100?
Yes. And it's a pretty cool one. Chapter 100, a description of the judgment. And then in one place the fathers will be smitten with their sons, and brothers will fall in death with one another. From dawn until sunset, they will be murdered together. There is some commentary here. It says, line moved to create a series of distichs. See 1 Enoch 1, 499 through 500. So we don't have that.
The one we don't have, yeah.
But if you do, check it out. Until there flows of their blood, as it were a stream. For a man will not restrain his hand from his son, nor from his beloved one to kill him.
This is very much like, the stuff in Deuteronomy 28, those curses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when if you don't follow God's law, he will make you eat your children. That type of curse in the same vein.
Right. And the sinner will not restrain his hand. Greek omits will not restrain his hand from the honored one, nor from his brother. A horse will wade up to its breast through the blood of the sinners.
Wow.
And the chariot will sink to its axles.
So that's quite a lot of blood.
That is a lot of blood. The angels will descend, going down into the hidden places on that day. That'd be a good spin-off of the high place.
Hidden places, yeah.
Yeah. And those who aided iniquity will be gathered into one place. And the Most High will be aroused on that day to execute great judgment on all. So the on that day is a reference to the revelation, right?
Well, to the
Like in
the
those
eschatological
days. Yeah.
thing.
Right.
So
It's the
at
meme.
the end,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
During
an
the end times.
eschatological meme, essentially. This is a different subsection, same chapter. A blessed future. He will set a guard of, well, you know what? Why don't we talk about the judgment a little bit, because that's like the entire description of the judgment.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of blood. People will just be killing each other. And it says from dawn until sunset, they will be murdered together.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, judgment isn't God doing something. It's just everyone going nuts and killing each other at the same time.
Sure, but you'd have to think that God was somehow doing this in a way. He was somehow causing this because of their sins.
Right. Well, it says that the angels descend to the hidden places.
Yeah, the hidden places.
And what is the hidden place?
I don't know what the hidden places are.
It means if you built a neat underground secret bunker to prevent yourself from dying during the apocalypse, they found you.
If there was a specific commentary on this this last section, then I think
that would be really useful.
Yeah, that'd be really useful to know. But there's nothing in here on it.
Yeah. Well, the hidden places, whatever that is, it hasn't really been referenced before.
It has not.
And
no, like I said, it's all those secret bunkers people tried to hide in during the eschatological event. Am I right?
No.
No.
Did I say it wrong?
I mean, well, you said it right, but no.
Oh, well, if it's the end times or whatever, then yeah.
Yeah, but the hidden places, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a bunker or anything even
bunkers, as many as there are.
So is the hidden place like a different realm?
Places.
It's the hidden places, right?
Yeah.
So are these different realms or like different worlds?
Read the verse again.
The angels will descend, going down into the hidden places on that day, and those who aided iniquity will be gathered into one place.
My guess here is that the hidden places are the places where they hadn't accepted like either this revelation or, God in general.
Well,
that's my best guess.
Well, I'm thinking about, so maybe it's like Sheol, right? Maybe.
Well, I'm thinking of it as like an actual like multiple places where they don't worship Yahweh.
Right.
That's my guess.
But it's the angels descending.
Yes.
Right. And presumably, like the image that I get in my head is that.
I mean, they descended to the earth in the Book of the Watchers.
Like, right. But we gotta keep in mind the cosmology that they have set up. You're in this cone, basically.
It's really weird, like a weird cylinder.
Yeah, like a weird cylinder, and
you have a flat Earth because whether you like it or not, yes,
there's a firmament above there.
Yeah,
and you see the stars up there, and the stars are the angels. Right? We've established that, right? More or less.
Sure, yeah.
Or at least they are angels of some sort. They have divinity, right? And so this is like all the stars coming down from the firmament and going past like the edge of the earth, right? Because it's flat.
Yeah.
And then there's a hidden place because you can't see what's...
Yeah, but I think they would have just said something a little more closer to Sheol, some other description.
I don't know. It could be any number of things, really. But that's the image that I got. A blessed future. Still chapter 100. He will set a guard of holy angels over the righteous and holy. This is the Most High. Yeah. And they will be kept as the apple of the eye until evil and sin come to an end. And from that time, the pious will sleep a sweet sleep, and there will no longer be anyone to frighten them. And the wise among men will see the truth, and the sons of the earth will contemplate these words of this epistle, and they will recognize that their wealth cannot save them when iniquity collapses. Enoch's fifth discourses to the sinners on their judgment. This is still chapter 100. A string of woes. Woe to you, unrighteous, when you afflict the righteous on a day of hard anguish and burn them in fire, for you will be recompensed according to your deeds. Woe to you, heart of heart, who lie awake to devise evil. Fear will overtake you, and there will be no one to help you. Woe to you, all you sinners, because of the words of your mouth and the deeds of your hands, for you have strayed from the holy deeds. In the heat of a blazing fire, you will burn.
Savage.
Yeah, that's the string of woes. God will judge by means of the creation. This is still chapter 100. And now, know that from the angels inquiry into your deeds will be made in heaven, and from the sun and from the moon and from the stars concerning your sins, because on earth you execute judgment on the righteous, and every cloud and mist and dew and rain will testify against you, for they will be withheld from you, so as not to descend upon you. The Greek is defective here.
So, basically these more cosmic powers, I should say, these more natural powers, they know the truth, and you can't hold them back. You can't control them. Only God does that.
Right.
And apparently he is righteous.
So, like, the literal forces of nature
Yeah.
are going to tell God what he already knows.
Well, yeah.
I guess. And they will be mindful of your sins. Therefore, give gifts to the rain, lest it be withheld from descending to you. And to the dew and clouds and mist pay gold, that they may descend. For if the snow and the frost and its cold hurl themselves upon you, and the rain and the winds and their chill and all their scourges, then Ethiopic says in those days, which normally translates then of Greek, missing here. So in those days, you will not be able to endure before the cold and their scourges. So this is odd because, and this may be part of why Enoch is not part of real canon, right? Because no part
real canon. Let's put quotes on that.
Yeah. Non-Ethiopic canon. And maybe it's because of here they literally tell you to pay sacrifices to the forces of nature.
That is kind of what it sounds like. That it's telling you to actually sacrifice.
It says give gifts to the rain,
exactly,
lest it be withheld from descending to you.
Exactly.
Which pretty much, that's exactly like your
sounds like sacrifice to me. Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe not. It doesn't have to be like an animal sacrifice or something, but some sort of symbolic giving back to nature, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I learned this recently that some Native American tribes would, before they go out and get rice or something, they smoke some tobacco and they
sprinkle.
Yeah, they sprinkle it or just like leave some on the ground.
Yeah,
as like a way to give back. So maybe in that same vein, but in some way it's still a sacrifice.
It does a pretty good job at keeping bugs from crawling in through doorways.
Well, okay. I'm just saying that it might be like that.
Yeah, it might be. Well, why don't we switch off?
Sure.
You can start reading. He's going to start reading chapter 101. Ooh.
Good old chapter 101.
So this is
Enoch 101. Yes.
Any questions for our first lesson today?
No, let's continue.
Okay.
Well, Eerdmans has only really one thing to say about this, and it only fits at the beginning. So he says, one of the literary gems of the book of Enoch. This short parable manages to evoke a wide array of Enochic themes, including the flood, the contrast between the obedience of nature and the defiance of sinners, God's power to bind and control chaos, the ties between knowledge of the natural and of the spiritual realms, and the familiar first/last judgment typology. That's a parable of the sea captains, which you should enjoy.
Yeah, I probably will.
Starts at verse 4 of this chapter and ends on verse 3 of the next.
Okay. So I'll just get into this.
Yeah.
Let's jump to that part. It's your favorite now.
So contemplate, O human beings, the deeds of the Most High, and fear to do evil in his presence. If he closes the windows of heaven and withholds the dew and the rain from descending because of you, what will you do? If he sends forth his wrath against you and your deeds, will you not be entreating him? Why do you speak with your mouth proud and hard things against his majesty? You will have no peace. Stop talking shit about God. Start worshiping.
You will have no peace.
Yeah. And then we're getting to the parable of the sea captains.
Yeah.
Look at the captains who sail the sea. Their ships are shaken by wave and storm. Being beaten by the storm, they all fear, and all their goods and possessions they throw out into the sea. Here the Greek and Ethiopic of these two lines are somewhat different, and the exact original wording is uncertain. Because it would seem weird if they were throwing all of their stuff into the sea. I mean, I kind of understand how, if they think they've taken something that they shouldn't have taken, and there's a storm, they might,
pay sacrifice to
throw it away and just say, okay, sorry.
Gods.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And in their heart they are apprehensive that the sea will swallow them up and they will perish in it. Are not all the sea and all its waters and all its movement the work of the Most High? Probably not. He constituted it from the waters and bound it together and confined it by the sand. So, creation account here a little bit.
Yeah.
How he created the sea. At his rebuke, they fear and dry up. And
he didn't create water.
No, it was already there.
Yeah, but he did
morph
fence it in.
Yeah. At his rebuke, they fear and dry up, and the fish die and all that is in it. But you sinners on the earth do not fear him. But did he not make the heavens and the earth and all that is in them? And who gave knowledge and wisdom to all that move on the earth and that are in the sea? Do not the captains fear the sea, but the sinners do not fear the Most High. So even in troubling times, it seems that the sinners aren't swayed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the way that they see it, right? We've just gone through all this narrative about literal judgment.
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
Right? And the sinners, they can't recognize a clear problem that's right in front of them, which I guess is why they're fools and sinners. Right?
And it's really interesting because I feel like, I'm not going to say all, but definitely some converts to religion, they usually go to religion because, and actually no, not usually, but sometimes they do go to religion because of something horrible that's happened in their life, and this is a way to seek comfort, and it just when things get better, it's just confirmation for them. Yeah.
But really what they're saying is like in situations where there's nothing that you can do about anything, you might as well sacrifice to the ocean god or whatever you have to do.
But no, it's got to be to the Most High,
right?
Because He controls it all,
right?
So, anyways, and now we are getting into chapter 102.
Yep. Still the parable of the sea captains, though.
Then, when he hurls against you,
so the then is in those days.
Gotcha. Well, it might be. There's no note on this specific one.
Previously, a note had said that the Greek...
Was it all of them?
It said that the Greek usually translates as then in those days. So, I think...
Okay. Well...
It's probably a little far off to say every instance of then. Right. But probably, like, if it, like, starts a thing.
It was the style at the time.
It has in those days read it. In Eerdmans.
It does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. So then, when he hurls against you the flood of the fire of your burning. The flood of the fire of your burning.
Eerdman says when he throws at you a wave of blazing fire.
That makes more sense, honestly.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm guessing, is more literal.
Mm-hmm.
Where will you flee and be saved? And when he utters his voice against you with a mighty sound, will you not be shaken and frightened? The heavens and all the luminaries will be shaken with great fear, and all the earth will be shaken and will tremble and be thrown into confusion. Sounds like a storm.
And an earthquake.
Yeah, or it could just be really aggressive thunder.
I do believe it's earthquake, tsunami, hurricanes.
That's a bummer.
I know, it's real bad.
Eerdman says all the earth will be shaken and trembling and alarmed.
Yeah, that's almost the same thing, except for the confusion. Anyways, all the angels will fulfill what was commanded them, and all the sons of earth will seek to hide themselves from the presence of the great glory, and they will be shaken and tremble, and you sinners will be cursed forever. You will have no peace. Even though this is still part of the parable of the sea captains, it kind of strayed away from that.
Right.
So, anyways.
That's the end of the parable of the sea captains.
Yeah,
right?
It is, yeah. And then there's also in chapter 102, Enoch's sixth discourse, a disputation on justice and the judgment.
Yeah, so Eerdman says about this, it's a debate concerning ultimate destinies. It says the wicked in the AE seem to deny...
That's the admonitions of Enoch, or just the epistle.
Yeah, the epistle. Seem to deny any afterlife. Here, toward the end of the book, the author engages in a mock debate with self-satisfied and comfortable sinners who feel that the misery of the so-called righteous vindicates their own philosophy of life, while these righteous, for their part, are so discouraged that they are ready to quit, having concluded that the curses of the Mosaic covenant, Deuteronomy 28, have perversely fallen upon themselves.
So I'm guessing this is going to be kind of like one of those dialogues, right?
Mm-hmm. And this goes through chapter 104, verse 9, and I'll take it after that.
Yeah. And just to be clear, by dialogue, it's like the Greek dialogues.
Yes.
Yeah. Fear not, souls of the righteous. Take courage, you pious who have died. So, talking straight to the dead. And do not grieve, because your souls have descended into Sheol with grief. And your body of flesh did not fare in your life according to your piety, because the days that you lived were days of sinners and curses on the earth. So, even though you're in Sheol, away from God, don't feel bad. You'll be okay, because now is the time for judgment. Now is when things get fixed.
Yes.
When you die, Then the sinners say about you, the pious have died according to fate. And what have they gained from their deeds? Look then, how they die in grief and darkness, and what advantage do they have over us? Henceforth, let them arise and be saved, and they shall forever see the light. But look, they have died, and henceforth and forever they will not see the light. Therefore, it is good for us to eat and drink, to plunder and sin and steal, and get wealth and see good days.
So, like, obviously, everybody dies.
All of the righteous die, because as if these theoretical sinners would somehow think that they don't die in grief and misery.
Well, did they say outright, but we will never die?
No. But
Right,
the
right.
thing is,
So-
since they're talking shit,
They're talking
their
shit.
reasoning for continuing to do bad things is because their opponents are dying miserably.
Yeah,
So
and they die. They live miserably because they don't engage in the hedonism and debauchery.
right.
And then they die miserably,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get nothing in exchange for it that anyone
Yeah.
can see. So their argument is that we have no evidence to not just engage in hedonism and debauchery.
I mean, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, sure. Anyways, were you gonna comment on that specifically? What I just read?
No, that's all.
Oh, okay. Look then, those who consider themselves righteous, of what sort their destruction has been. No righteousness was found in them until they died.
Yep.
And they perished and became as those who are not, and their souls descended with pain into Sheol. So they also accept Sheol? These are the ones that are bastardizing the faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, because they also accept Sheol.
Yeah.
Oh, and we are in chapter 103. But it's still the same discourse. And now I swear to you, the righteous, by the glory of the Great One, and by his splendid kingship and his majesty, I swear to you that I know this mystery, for I have read the tablets of heaven. Remember those? Remember the tablets of heaven?
Tablets of heaven.
Yeah, they were either in the parables of Enoch or in the astronomical book.
Mm.
Kind of like a Joseph Smith thing.
Yeah. I remember they were like a Joseph Smith thing, but is that all there is?
Well, I mean, that's what they're referring to, the tablets of heaven.
Yeah.
And I have seen the writing of what must be, and I know the things that are written in them and inscribed concerning you.
So it's like a reference, like a book of judgment type thing.
Yeah, and it's and that maybe this is kind of similar to the book of life, because in the book of life, if you read Revelation, it's described as having the names of everybody that was righteous, I think, and it concerned their fate. And we don't really get much stuff on the this quote unquote book of life,
Right.
but perhaps this is from a similar kind of tradition, because
I mean, it's the same idea. Here
Yeah.
they're tablets. There it's a book.
Yeah.
But
inscribed concerning you, that good things in joy and honor have been prepared and written down for the souls of the pious who have died. And much good will be given to you in the place of your labors, and your lot will exceed the lot of the living. The souls of the pious who have died will come to life, and they will rejoice and be glad. And their spirits will not perish, nor their memory from the presence of the Great One, for all the generations of eternity. Therefore, do not fear their reproaches. So this is the kind of the same thing that we get in Revelation about a new heaven and a new earth, totally revitalized.
yeah, and it's obviously that's his response to the argument that the sinners make.
Yeah.
right? Is that all this stuff happens later.
Exactly.
And he knows.
He knows. He saw them.
He knows because, Lawrence.
They were in the tablets of heaven, man.
I know everything that you're going to do, and I know it, and you can't question me. I know it because I read it in the tablets of heaven.
I am convinced.
You should be. Why wouldn't
I be?
Believe me.
Yeah. Believe me. Woe to you, dead sinners, when you die in your sinful wealth. Those who are like you say about you, blessed are the sinners all their days that they have seen. I don't think they would say blessed are the sinners.
Blessed are the sinners.
And now they have died with goods and wealth and affliction and murder they have not seen in their life. They have died in splendor, and judgment was not executed on them in their life. No, and that's the end of the quote there. And then this is the response. Know that down to Sheol they will lead your souls, and there they will be in great distress, and in darkness, and in a snare, and in a flaming fire. Into great judgment your souls will enter, and the great judgment will be for all the generations of eternity. Woe to you! You will have no place. Sorry, no peace.
Yeah.
Once again, no peace.
So basically, they're like, well, nothing bad happens to us if we do what we want.
Well, yeah, the sinners, yeah.
He's like, oh, no, after you die.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to continue here. This is a refutation of the righteous who are alive. Do not say, you who are righteous and pious in life. In the days of our tribulation, we toiled laboriously, and every tribulation we saw, and many evils we found. We were consumed and became few, and our spirits small, and we were destroyed, and there was no one to help us with the word and deed. We were powerless and found nothing. We were crushed and destroyed, and we gave up hope. We gave up hope anymore to know safety from day to day. We had hoped to be the head and became the tail. We toiled and labored and were not masters of our labor. We became the food of the sinners. The lawless weighed down their yoke upon us. Our enemies were our masters. They goaded us on and penned us in. And to our enemies we bowed our necks, and they had no mercy on us. We sought to get away from them so that we might escape and be refreshed. But we found no place to flee and be safe from them. So, of course, that's a theoretical righteous person.
Right.
Talking about how we couldn't really do much about it. We tried and tried, but it got us nowhere.
Yes.
We complained to the rulers in our tribulation and cried out against those who struck us down and oppressed us. But our complaints they did not receive, nor did they wish to give a hearing to our voice. They did not help us. They did not find anything against those who oppressed us and devoured us. But they strengthened against us them who killed us and made us few. So things were getting even worse.
Yes.
They did not disclose their iniquities, nor did they remove from us the yoke of them who devoured us and dispersed us and murdered us. They did not disclose concerning those who murdered us, nor did they make mention that they raised their hands against us. And now we're getting into chapter 104.
Yes.
I swear to you. And that was the end of the quote, by the way.
Yeah. I'll take over at 104:10.
Okay, sure. I swear to you that the angels in heaven make mention of you for good before the glory of the Great One, and your names are written before the glory of the Great One. Tablets, Book of Life type of thing. Take courage then, for formerly you were worn out by evils and tribulations, but now you will shine like the luminaries of heaven. You will shine and appear, and the portals of heaven will be opened for you. Your cry will be heard, and the judgment for which you cry will also appear to you. So this is still in the discourse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he is talking to the people who are alive. I'm just making sure.
Yeah. He's talking to the righteous people.
Yeah. For from the rulers inquiry will be made concerning your tribulation, and from all who helped them who oppressed you and devoured you, inquiry will be made regarding your evils. So they are going to be questioned about, the things that they did, but also they are going to be questioned on the things that the righteous would have done.
Yes.
Did you read the book of Enoch?
Theoretically. Yes.
All right, that was question 1. We've got a lot to go.
Take courage and do not abandon your hope, for you will have great joy like the angels of heaven. And what will you have to do? You will not have to hide on the day of the great judgment, and you will not be found as the sinners, and the great judgment will be far from you for all the generations of eternity. Fear not, O righteous, when you see the sinners growing strong and prospering, and do not be their companions, but stay away from all their iniquities, for you will be companions of the host of heaven. So this is, kind of a jab at the people who were previously righteous, but then kind of adopted the traditions of the unrighteous.
Yes. Hey, if you're enjoying the stream so
We're not
far-
done yet.
Oh, we're not done yet?
No.
Oh.
Do not say, O sinners, none of our sins will be searched out and written down. All of your sins are being written down day by day. And now I show you that light and darkness, day and night, observe all your sins. And you know what? I'm going to finish this off, including 105, and then I'll pass it off to you because it's very short.
Yeah.
And here's a conclusion to the epistle. Do not err in your hearts or lie, or alter the words of truth, or falsify the words of the Holy One, or give praise to your errors. For it is, and this is another way that they would serve to justify this as a book, by saying, don't falsify the words of the Holy One. And it's like, if he's saying that, then these have got to be the words of the Holy One.
Yeah. So
it's another way to give it authority.
what verse are you at?
That is 104.9.
Okay. So at 104.10, there's a prophecy and a commission.
Sure. I'll let you know when I'm done with it.
Okay.
Yeah, or falsify the words of the Holy One, or give praise to your errors. For it is not the righteous that all your lies and all your error lead, but to great sin. And now I know this mystery, that sinners will alter and copy the words of truth, and pervert many, and lie, and invent great fabrications, and write books in their own names. Now, this is very interesting, because, of course, this happened a lot throughout history, and this is, I think, another way to justify the divine inspiration, I should say, of this book, because, if you're talking out against these things, why would you do such a thing? But it's not that he was wrong. This happened throughout history all the time. This happened in Jewish tradition and Christian tradition. It didn't really matter. People would write books under other people's names.
Yeah. But also, it's like, look at me. I'm really Enoch, and I'm calling out these people for not being who they claim to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was the end of verse 10 there.
Okay, so here we go into a prophecy and commission. Pseudo-Enoch finishes with a remarkable, because correct, prophecy that his writings will be preserved and translated, although he worries that this process of transmission may introduce inaccuracies.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of a fact. So he was right about this.
And then, of course,
The-
there's a
I think-
mistranslation there, and we lost a bunch of text.
Here's the thing. In the intertestamental period, there were plenty of people writing books under the names of other people, and things were being, copied, and scribes were, they were copying things down for their own textual tradition, and things changed here and there. So the author acknowledges that, and speaking out against these great fabrications could be, a reference to other things that were written during that period. It was very common. So, from a historical context, this would be less of a prophecy and just more of a straight up attack.
Yeah, but it also provides the perfect apologetic cop-out.
Exactly.
Right? You just didn't get the right prophecy because the translation didn't work
Or
properly.
You made a mistake. You just scribbled something down wrong, or you added something. It happened. It happened a lot. So, would that they would write all my words in truth, and neither remove nor alter these words, but write in truth all that I testify to them. And again, I know a second mystery, that to the righteous and pious and wise, my books will be given for the joy of righteousness and much wisdom. I bet Tsar Yaakov was just getting a hard on over that. It was like, yes, whatever you say. Indeed, to them the books will be given, and they will believe in them. And in them all the righteous will rejoice and be glad, to learn from them all the paths of truth. All the paths of truth. All of them. And now we're in 105. In those days, says the Lord, they will summon and testify against the sons of the earth in their wisdom. Instruct them, for you are their leaders. And here's a note here. I'm going to finish the verse, but there's an ellipses. Is that what that's called?
Dot.
Yeah,
ellipses.
Okay. And rewards over all the earth. So the note here is the wording here is uncertain. The text may be defective. For I and my son will join ourselves with them forever in the paths of truth in their life, and you will have peace. Rejoice, O children of truth. Amen.
This appears to be an exhortation from God himself to the Enochians to spread abroad their wisdom. Possibly the quotation ends with verse 1 and Enoch is the speaker in verse 2 referring to Methuselah, my son, a plausible view since the letter makes no other reference to a Messiah figure. If, however, God
At least this part of the text. In the corpus, but not in this part.
If, however, God is the speaker in both verses, a messianic interpretation cannot be ruled out, since the idea of the Messiah as God's son appears elsewhere in Jewish apocalyptic literature. Either way, the missionary emphasis of the epistle and its conclusion demonstrates a desire by the author to win over the children of the earth to the Enochic tradition.
Yeah, it's this. I think it's definitely meant to be Enoch talking there.
Yep. And now
I think it's funny that 6 lines or so after saying there will be heirs, there was an heir.
Yep. Now, chapter 106.
Yeah, so chapter 105 was literally just 2 verses.
Yeah. The birth of Noah.
So you talked about this, at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, in the introduction.
Yeah. And I just want to add this little piece because I think it's pretty interesting. So the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that by the end of the 1st century BC, the first appendix, this is chapters 106 through 107, was already attached to the admonitions of Enoch, although in the Aramaic fragments, they are separated by a noticeable gap. That's just a thing. Actually, hold on. Can you hand me the Dead Sea Scrolls book? Let's see if that's going to be useful. I didn't check it. I should have.
I thought it didn't have Enoch.
Well, let's find out. But yeah, you can continue though.
Okay. After a time, I took a wife for Methuselah, my son, and she bore a son and called his name Lamech. Righteousness was brought low until that day. And when Lamech had come of age, he took for himself a wife, and she conceived from him and bore a child. And when the child was born,
this actually does have a part of Enoch, but it's from the Book of the Watchers. Yeah, never mind. Damn, what a bummer.
Yeah. And when the child was born, his body was whiter than snow and redder than a rose. His hair was all white and like white wool and curly. Glorious was his face. When he opened up his eyes, the house shone like the sun. And he stood up from the hands of the midwife, and he opened his mouth and praised the Lord of eternity. Wow. So
right away.
Yep. So he has hair like God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Daniel.
Image of God.
Yeah. Image of God. Praises the Lord immediately after being born.
I was born with white curly hair.
And
so was my dad, and so was his dad.
You old man.
Yeah, but was it like wool?
Sure.
Wow.
I don't know. I might have like some of that hair laying around. But that's
Probably.
Laying around.
You know, Mom kept it, but I don't know where she kept it.
Have you ever seen a sheep?
Sure.
Your hair probably didn't look like wool.
Probably was not looking anything like
that's
wool.
too tight a coil.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You're not
moving
a
on.
sheep, Chris.
No. Hope not. It'd be an awkward situation. Anywho, moving on.
More like a goat.
And Lamech was afraid of him, and he fled and came to Methuselah, his father. You know what? Pan, the Greek god, Pan, he's born to this midwife, and the midwife is immediately afraid of him after the birth because, he's Pan. He looks like a goat man.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of religious figures who get born in some miraculous fashion.
Sure.
And then the person who is there tending to the birth is immediately terrified of them.
I mean, that's interesting. There might be some influence. I don't know. Considering the time, I mean, yeah, it was already Hellenized, but I don't know.
All right. And he said to him, a strange child has been born to me. He is not like human beings, but like the sons of the angels of heaven. Oh, man. It wasn't born to him. His form is strange, not like us. His eyes are like the rays of the sun, and glorious is his face. I think that he is not from me, but from the angels. And I fear him, lest something happen in his days on the earth. I beg you, Father, and beseech you, go to Enoch, our father, and learn the truth from him, for his dwelling is with the angels.
So he's going to pray to Enoch now? Because he is dwelling with the angels.
Yes.
But let's read on and
I
find
guess.
out.
The way that they talk about him, though,
This is...
maybe he's like an albino,
Well...
right? He has white hair. His eyes are like the rays of the sun.
The thing is, let's finish this section because there is some stuff I'm going to mention about this.
When Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to the ends of the earth, where he heard I was then. And he said to me, my father, hear my voice and come to me. And I heard his voice and came to him and said, look here, I am, child. It's broken up there.
Yeah.
There's also an indentation for some reason. But why have you come to me, child? He answered and said, because of great distress I have come to you, and because of a terrible vision I have approached here, Father.
I don't think it was a vision. I think it was a birth.
Yeah. Well, it's
You didn't
something
even
that
see
he
it.
saw.
Yeah.
Like it was
He
in
didn't
front of
guess.
even see the birth or the kid. He just got described it.
No, he saw it. He answered and said, because of great distress I have come to you, because of a terrible vision I have approached here, Father. And now, my father, hear me. For a child has been born to Lamech my son, and his form and appearance are not like the form of human beings. And his color is whiter than snow and redder than a rose. And the hair of his head is whiter than white wool. And his eyes are like rays of the sun. And he opened his eyes and made the whole house bright. And he stood up from the hands of his midwife and opened his mouth and praised the Lord of eternity. And Lamech my son was afraid, and he fled to me. He does not believe that the child is his son, but that he is from the angels of heaven. And look, I have come to you, because from the angels you have the exact facts and the truth.
Wow.
Then I, Enoch...
What a way to just stamp the Enochian tradition on things.
Yeah.
You have the truth.
The exact facts.
Yeah.
Yep. Then I, Enoch, answered and said, the Lord will renew his commandment upon the earth, just as, child, I have seen and told you, that in the generation of Jared, my father, they transgressed the word of the Lord, the covenant of heaven. Either there is a double reading here that derives from alternative translations of Aramaic, or a verb has been dropped from the text in this section that I just read.
Sure.
And look, they went on sinning and transgressing the custom. With women they were mingling, and with them they were sinning. They married some of them, and they went on begetting children, not like spirits, but of flesh. And there will be great wrath upon the earth and a flood, and there will be a great destruction for a year. And this child that was born to you will be left on the earth, and his children will be saved with him. And when all the people on the earth die, and he will cleanse the earth from the corruption that is on it. And now tell Lamech, he is your child in truth, and this child will be righteous and blameless. And Noah call his name, for he will be your remnant, from whom you will find rest. He and his sons will be saved from the corruption of the earth, and from all sins and from all iniquities that are consummated on the earth in his days. And after this, there will be stronger iniquity than that which was formerly consummated on the earth. For I know the mysteries of the Lord, that the holy ones have revealed and shown to me, and that I have read in the tablets of heaven. This is chapter 107. And I have seen written in them that generation upon generation will do evil in this way. The rest of the chapter is based on in part on Aramaic, I guess. And the evil will be until there arise generations of righteousness. And evil and wickedness will end, and violence will cease from the earth, and good things will come upon the earth to them. Now, go, child, and tell Lamech your son that this child that was born is his child, truly and without deception. When Methuselah heard the words of Enoch his father, for Enoch revealed them to him secretly, Methuselah returned and revealed everything to Lamech. And his name is called Noah, he who gladdens the earth from destruction. Greek adds the Epistle of Enoch, a subscript.
So it's interesting what was earlier
Yes.
In was it that chapter, I think, or was it the last one before that? I don't know. That one was so short. But when it comes to, there will be bad generations until there is a righteous one. Now, obviously, it couldn't really be any other way. There will be bad people until there are just good people. But he is talking about, I think, specifically the day of judgment that's coming, but I think it's a different one. It's not the flood, because when it comes to the flood, that was still very real, physical, on earth people, right?
Yes.
But from the imagery before, it looked like a new heaven, new earth kind of situation.
Yes.
Which was, more spiritual, I guess.
A little, I suppose, maybe.
Because the souls were supposed to, come up and be revitalized, I guess.
So, like, this judgment that we go through, apparently, it sounds kind of like a zombie apocalypse.
A little bit?
Like, everyone just goes crazy and murders each other, and there's blood everywhere.
And then souls come up out of the earth.
Yeah.
But it's all for, I wouldn't really call it a zombie apocalypse, but it is, kind
well,
of.
I mean, they all go crazy and kill each other, basically zombies.
No, but those aren't, those are the living and the...
they're not undead.
Yeah, they're not undead. Those are the living, and then obviously they kill each other, which I would say is different than a zombie apocalypse.
Only a little bit.
Either way.
I mean, at least in a zombie apocalypse, there's still, like, zombies thereafter.
True. So I'm going to read this little section until we get into the last chapter.
Okay.
There are striking similarities between this narrative and part of the Genesis Apocryphon, and that is a Dead Sea scroll, or at least a document from the Dead Sea sect. A lost work partially preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls, as well as certain resemblances to the birth of Melchizedek in 2nd Enoch 71, a later Enochic writing. Clearly, a common wonder birth tradition was adaptable to more than one narrative situation. The purpose of this story here at the end of Enoch is to amplify the biblical narrative and to emphasize the continuity of the Enochic traditions. Latter-day recipients of these traditions may be confident that they, like Noah, will survive the coming wrath.
All right. Well, actually, that's the end of the epistle, right?
That's
the end of that book.
Well,
in the book of Enoch, right? This is the
kind of,
final
because
book.
These are both appendices, right? So this first appendix is on the birth of Noah, and the second one is something else.
Right. Okay, so there's more than the amount of books that they say there are. Really.
Well, yeah,
There's
but it's included in the division that is the Epistle of Enoch.
Yeah. A final book by Enoch. Chapter 108. Another book that Enoch wrote for his son Methuselah and for those who would come after him and keep the law in the last days.
Now, before you read it, here is something interesting.
Yes.
From Erdman's. Missing from both the Aramaic fragments and the sole Greek copy of the Admonitions of Enoch, this chapter is an independent Enochic apocalypse of an unknown date. Yeah, and in a vision inspired by Enoch 18:13 and 21:1-6 in the Book of the Watchers, Enoch is shown the fate awaiting sinners in an awful netherworld, while an interpreting angel tells him what he is seeing. So very similar to, kind of stuff we saw earlier.
Mm-hmm. You who have observed it and are waiting in these days until the evildoers are brought up to an end, and the power of the sinners is brought to an end. You wait until sin passes away, for their names will be erased from the book of life and from the books of the holy ones.
As if their names were... Okay, so actually this is different now.
The book of life and the books of the holy ones.
No, I know. So I'm now thinking that it's not that the tablets of heaven weren't necessarily the book of life, because even though they're similar, the tablets of heaven already held all the correct names, but the book of life, now names are being erased from it.
Yes. So when you die, you're no longer alive. You're no longer in the book of life.
And you don't receive salvation of some sort, of guessing?
Yes.
Or maybe this was even written after Revelation, and they're taking that theology. I don't know.
It could have been, because we have no idea when it was written.
Yeah.
Ugh. For their names will be erased from the book of life and from the books of the holy ones. There's also different books of the holy ones. I'd like to point that out. Like, there's not just the book of life and the tablets of heaven. There's books of the holy ones. So they read. Presumably right.
I'm also a little sick, Justin McClure.
Yeah, you're making a bunch of weird sounds back there.
I am coughing quite a bit. I can't help it.
Yeah. And their descendants will perish.
Also not a vape.
Yeah, I don't vape.
It's a hookah.
Yeah.
We're real people here.
Their spirits will be slaughtered, and they will cry out and groan in a desolate, unseen place, and in fire they will burn, for there is no earth there. I saw there something like a cloud, which could not be discerned, since because of its depth I was unable to look up at it. And flames of fire I saw burning gloriously, and something like glorious mountains were turning over and quaking to and fro. And I asked one of the holy angels who were with me. It's been a while since he asked one of the holy angels that are with him.
Yeah.
What is this glorious place? For there is no heaven, but only flames of fire that are burning, and the sound of weeping and crying and groaning and severe pain.
Yeah, weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's used to describe hell in the New Testament. So, yeah, this is definitely later. I don't know how late. Nobody knows apparently, but it is really interesting to see how much closer this is to our modern day perceptions of hell than the stuff about Sheol.
Yeah,
because even though presumably beforehand, and when he was initially seeing visions earlier in the book, it didn't describe it like this. It was, Sheol had, certain places for people, right?
This could be like in one of the pits.
Yeah, it could be. That's true.
And he said to me, the place that you see, here are thrown the spirits of the sinners and blasphemers and those who do evil and those who alter everything that the Lord has said by the mouth of the prophets about the things that will be done. For there are books and records about them in heaven above, so that angels may read them and know what will happen to the sinners and the spirits of the humble, and those afflicted, and those who afflicted their bodies and were recompensed by God. And
it's really interesting. So there are hints of free will and hints of determinism.
Right.
Can we make
because
there's something really interesting t-shirt? Because you say that a lot.
That's true, I do, but I don't think we can market that.
That's really interesting.
Because what you just read out about the angels reading from all these different books and knowing the future of the humble,
yes,
there were also portions where your name could be erased from these kinds of books.
Yes.
I mean, a different book by title, but it's probably in the same vein.
Right. Unless there's very specific rules for individual books.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that would be a ridiculous project.
Yeah. And those who were abused by evil men, those who love God and do not love gold and silver and all the good things that are in the world, but gave their bodies to torment, and those who from the time they existed did not desire the food that is in the world, but considered themselves as a breath that passes away. And to this they kept. The Lord tested them much, and their spirits were found pure, so that they might bless his name. and all their blessings I have recounted in the books, and he has recompensed them for their lives. For these were found to have loved heaven more than their life that is in the world.
So it looks like blessings are kept in.
All but one manuscript reads everlasting life.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
Although they were trampled down by evil men and heard reproach and insult from them and were abused, yet they blessed me. And now I will summon the spirits of the pious who are from the generation of light, and I will transform those who have descended into darkness, who in their bodies were not recompensed with the honor appropriate to their faithfulness. Indeed, I will bring forth in shining light those who loved my holy name, and I will seat each one on the throne of his honor, and they will shine for times without number. For righteous is the judgment of God, and to the faithful he shows faithfulness, because they abide in the paths of truth. And the righteous, as they shine, will see those who were born in darkness cast into darkness. And the sinners will cry out and see them shining, and they, for their part, will depart to where the days and times are written for them. And that is the
end of the Book of Enoch.
First one.
Book of Enoch.
First Enoch, the Hermenia translation. This has not been an audible recording.
It has not been. But you know, I totally forgot to do this at the start of the show. Yep. We were reading from the Hermenia translation, and we have Erdman's commentary on the Bible, along with some of their books. We totally forgot to say what books we had. Yeah. But so the end there promises everybody their own throne. And it seems like after this final judgment, or it seems like this is going to be the final judgment because it's going to be that way for all time. That's what it looks like.
By the way,
while sinners are destined for a dark place, quote, where days and seasons are prescribed for them. And that's, you know, kind of very cosmic imagery with, you know, stuff continuously going around, never ending.
You know,
but this is also a spiritual resurrection. Sense.
In Genesis, God floods the earth.
Yeah.
Kills all the humans and everything.
Yes.
Then he says, I'm not going to do that again.
Well, it's going to be different now. It's not going to be everybody.
Is it?
It's just going to be quite a lot of people. Because it wasn't, well, I guess it wasn't everybody before because there's Noah, right?
Everybody goes nuts and kills everyone. And then the righteous arise from their graves.
Oh, that's true.
And then forever.
Just have heaven on earth, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the idea. So, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about our thoughts on Enoch in general, but before we get into that, I just want to read this one note from Erdman's. So they are quoting R.H. Charles, who did a lot of early scholarship on this. Charles rightly comments, the object of this chapter is to encourage the righteous still to hope on despite the long delay of the advent of the kingdom. As such, it makes a fitting end for a book which waited a long time for its own rebirth. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Hey, what were your thoughts on the Book of Enoch?
Well, pretty cool. Got a nice little ending there. Judgment. You know, it started off strong. Book of the Watchers. Lots of cool stuff in there. Fun stuff. I'm not sure that its theology or its cosmology line up exactly with anything in the biblical canon.
Yeah, not quite. There's definitely stuff that's very similar, as you would expect, but there are things that I can see why it wasn't included if you already accepted the other books as scripture.
Give gifts to the rain.
That's one.
Yeah.
And also, you pointed out the theology, never doing this again, But
of course, in the Christian tradition,
they
do it again anyway.
Yeah, well.
Right.
New covenant.
So
New deal.
yeah, that's a broken promise already.
Yeah,
Thanks,
well,
Yahweh.
thanks Yahweh.
Anyways,
Hashtag blame the Bible.
It started off good. I think that the astronomical book is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I didn't like parts, obviously too many numbers and specifics that were wrong.
Yeah.
It just frustrated me to hear them. But I liked the astronomical, or not the astronomical. I liked the Book of the Watchers the most.
Book of the
obviously.
Watchers was very
I think
entertaining.
that's
Yeah.
Book of the
everybody's
Watchers.
gonna agree on that.
Yeah.
I
second best probably I'd say is the parables.
I wouldn't even say it's the parables.
You wouldn't.
No,
What do you prefer over the parables?
I actually was okay with the
What was the
epistles
first
of
book?
Enoch. That was the Book of the Watchers.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything that had to do with Enoch asking questions about Sheol
Mm.
was great.
Yeah, that was
Anything
pretty
about
interesting
the
stuff.
mythos of the afterlife. Sometimes there were too many specific angel names, but when they talked about them again in more detail, that was neat. I don't remember when that was.
I mean,
Yeah.
also the dream visions were
Those are good.
those were all right, I thought, but I was actually completely okay with the Epistle of Enoch. I didn't mind it. Yeah,
I like the Epistle of Enoch. It's just not like my favorite thing.
yeah.
I think the animal apocalypse was at points interesting, but also because it was all analogy and allegory that it was mildly frustrating.
Yeah.
You know what though? We don't need this on the table anymore.
You're right. We don't.
Woo.
that's one down. So
What
I mean,
are your closing thoughts on the Book of Enoch?
you know, it's yeah. I also really enjoy the Watcher myth, but I feel like everybody knows that, or like so many people know that, but
They know of it.
yeah.
Right. Nobody actually reads these things.
And you know that there's a good reason to talk about that a lot, but I still don't think people like to take it out of context, and they like to apply it in ways that it probably shouldn't be applied, especially without taking into account the rest of the text and their relationships to each other.
I mean, this happens everywhere.
Yeah, all the
Right.
time for religious texts.
Sure.
But before we go, Chris, I didn't bring them over. Could you grab the commentaries that we have on 1st and 2nd Maccabees just to present them? We're going to show you how sexy these are. Well, they're not really sexy.
We
They're
can
pretty
keep
old.
them on the table
Yeah, we will keep them on the table.
because we don't need them anywhere else.
Exactly. So other than that, thank you. So here they are. These are by Jonathan Goldstein, and they have the same cover. My dad actually thought that they were the same book, and I was like, he thought, you got two of the same, and I'm like, no, they're different. But anyways, here they are. Obviously not the best looking books, but they're enormous, and they
Yeah, there's
probably
like,
have some very great commentary in them.
there's like 15 pages of commentary per page of book.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
So don't be fooled. We're not going to be reading Maccabees for the next 2 years.
Yeah, we're not. We're gonna pick out more important stuff. We're gonna talk about
Yeah, we're not going to read every note.
also the introductions in these books are enormous. Like
Yes.
the introductions are split into parts, so this is
And we're not reading the introductions in those
in full.
books.
No, we're
In-
not.
yeah,
I'm gonna pick out some stuff that we can reference,
Yeah.
but
We are reading all of Maccabees, the actual work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Don't
the
worry
actual
about that.
the actual translation with notes starts on page 187, 188. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of ridiculous. And although I'm glad we got both right away, because in his commentary on 2nd Maccabees, he says that his timeline was a
Yeah.
little off in 1st Maccabees, so we will be using the timeline from 2nd Maccabees.
Yes.
The commentary, I should say.
And if you want to help us out, we have other commentaries for 1st and 2nd Maccabees on
On the wish list,
the
yeah.
wish list. Do we have other translations?
There might be part of a commentary.
All right. There might be another translation up there too.
Yeah.
So
We got a whole bunch of stuff on the wish list. So if you want to help us out, it's there. We will, you can get whatever off of there. That'd be great. And we'll use these things as sources in videos.
Yeah, we will.
We definitely will.
We
it
used
happens.
this as a source in video.
Yeah, we did. It was pretty much the whole of 14 videos.
Yeah. That's 14 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yes, it is. Other than that, we got Patreon too.
Patreon.
If you like what we do and want to support us, you can become a patron and you can get a lot of cool rewards. You could be on the show. You can get T-shirts. You can get you can get books that we publish. You can get a lot of stuff.
You can get the audio clips of
if you
Lawrence's audiobook of To Your Evidence Unicorns Exist.
You could, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe because it counts. If you click like, it just helps us out so much.
If you did click like already, don't click it again.
Yeah, something bad happens then. So make sure the button, make sure the little symbol's blue.
Yeah. And click the bell.
Yeah, clicking the bell is very important.
The bell helps because, a lot of our subscribers, at least the viewers of our shows, seem to come in later on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm assuming.
Like right now, this is the peak, I think. Or did we get 18 earlier?
Yeah, a little higher earlier.
Okay.
Slightly.
Yeah. But for like the first half of the show, I'm assuming that they're not getting immediate alerts about things.
Yeah,
No.
and if they are, they're just
Our
gonna
time
click
slot's
later.
also kind of awkward, but it's
and it's on the same time as Talk Heathen, I think. Yeah.
Well, we're a better show,
Damn straight.
and we're calling you out.
Other than that, we got a Teespring too.
Yeah.
You can get some cool shirts. We got some really good designs on there now.
Yeah.
With that new Behold T-shirt.
Behold.
Yes.
You can
and it's Valentine's Day, so if you don't have a present for somebody you love, we have Valentine's Day shirts.
You're not going to receive them in time.
No, you won't. Probably not.
But
tell them that you
for
got it
next year.
Yeah. It's there. It's
Show them the email. Say, look what I got for you. Yeah. Oh, thanks. You could have done that earlier.
Yeah.
So we got Patreon, wish list, Teespring, and make sure because it's free, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's free. That's perfectly free to do.
Yeah. You used to be able to go to MilwaukeeAtheist.com.
But that's more on Chris at this point.
Yeah.
And analytics. It's not worth it.
Oh my God.
This guy.
This guy.
guy.
Anyways, that's the end of the show for today. And I guess until we get a new thing up here,
We'll
see you on Sunday.